In a move reminiscent of past Soviet leadership, Moscow today launched a military crackdown in the Baltic Republic of Lithuania in an attempt to stop the drive for independence there.
Imagine this. It's January 1991. The Soviet Union is on its last legs, but like a dying beast, it's thrashing around, desperate to hold on to its empire. In Lithuania, a tiny nation with big aspirations for freedom, the stakes couldn't be higher. On one side, civilians armed with nothing but courage. On the other, the full force of the Soviet military machine, a crumbling but still dangerous giant. It was a battle of ideals, a young democracy against an empire that couldn't admit its time was up. Let's set the stage. Lithuania's story in the 20th century is one of resilience against impossible odds. Occupied by the Soviets in 1940, then the Nazis, and then the Soviets again, Lithuania spent decades under the thumb of a foreign power. But beneath the surface, the desire for independence never died. By the late 1980s, cracks were forming in the Soviet Union. Gorbachev's reforms like glasnost and perestroika gave people hope, but also exposed the empire's weaknesses. In March of 1990, Lithuania became the first Soviet republic to declare independence.
Ir nuo šiol Lietuva vėl yra nepriklausoma valstybė.
Moscow, unsurprisingly, wasn't thrilled. Gorbachev responded with economic blockades and threats. But Lithuania held firm, and by January 1991, the Soviet Union decided it was time to make an example of them.
Mikhail Gorbachev ordered the implementation of a series of measures against Lithuania.
Government there defying Mikhail Gorbachev's order to surrender firearms.
On January 11th in 1991, Soviet forces rolled into Vilnius with tanks and troops, targeting key infrastructure like the TV tower, government buildings and communication centers. Their goal? To silence Lithuania's voice and crush its independence movement.
Psychological warfare above Lithuania. Soviet helicopters rained down demands for an end to independence.
The biggest display of Soviet military power in Lithuania since it proclaimed independence.
What they didn't expect was the sheer willpower of the Lithuanian people. Thousands gathered around the TV tower, unarmed and undeterred, creating a human shield and forming barricades to protect the Vilnius TV tower, the symbol of free press and communication. The Soviets, true to their form, responded with brute force. Tanks rolled over barricades, soldiers fired live rounds, and chaos erupted.
Iš tankečių lipa kareiviai su šautuvais, su ginklais ir eina į mūsų pastatą. Alio. Mūsų... Aš jau eteryje, atakuoja. Girdisi šaudimai iš visų pusių. Jie įlindo į radijo tašką.
14 civilians were killed, hundreds more were injured, including teenagers and elderly women. The air was thick with smoke, screams and defiance. It was a tragedy and also a testament to Lithuania's courage. The crackdown only strengthened the nation's resolve. The bloodshed of January 13th didn't break Lithuania, it united it. The world watched in horror as news spread of Soviet brutality.
Tanks crushed cars like flimsy toys. We saw one driver dead, trapped inside. Soldiers used nightsticks, smoke bombs, and at last, live ammunition. Several thousand unarmed Lithuanians had camped out at the installations in the belief that Moscow would not take the political risk of killing or wounding unarmed civilians. They were wrong.
Lithuania's independence was recognized internationally. Within months, Latvia and Estonia followed Lithuania's lead, declared independence, and dared Moscow to intervene.
We do not recognize the Soviets' forced incorporation of the Baltic states. We never have, and we
By the end of 1991, the Soviet Union was no more. The January events are a symbol of what Lithuanians were willing to endure for freedom. Every year, the nation remembers those who fell, honoring their sacrifice and reminding future generations of the price of liberty. Fast forward to today, and the January events still cast a long shadow over Baltic-Russian relations. Lithuania's defiance only grew with its unapologetic integration into Western institutions. NATO joined in 2004. The EU, same year. Moscow's reaction? Let's just say they've been less than thrilled. Russia sees Lithuania's independence as a betrayal and a personal insult.
I think we need to take a step back to the days of Andropov 6 years ago and restore state power.
Over the years, they've tried everything to punish Lithuania by cyber attacks, propaganda and economic pressure. And yet, Lithuania keeps standing tall. As we all know by today, hybrid warfare is essentially the Russian state policy. First up, economic blackmail. For years, Moscow used its control of energy supplies as leverage, cutting gas and oil to remind Lithuania who is the boss. Except it didn't work.
Now, Lithuania this month became the envy of the EU when it announced it had completely stopped importing gas from Russia.
Lithuania diversified its energy sources and built an LNG terminal, melodiously named Independence, to once again say thanks but no thanks. Then there's the cyber warfare. Lithuania became a playground for Russian hackers. Government websites, banks and media outlets were all fair game. And let's not forget the relentless propaganda campaigns painting Lithuania as a Russophobic Western puppet. Creative, but not exactly convincing. Today, the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia are some of the loudest critics of Russia. And can you really blame them? The January events are a big reason why Lithuania in particular takes security so seriously. They've seen what happens when you're unprepared for a neighbor that thinks sovereignty is optional. Lithuania has been at the forefront of pushing the EU and NATO to take a tougher stance on Russia. They've also been incredibly vocal about supporting Ukraine, knowing full well that the fight against Russian aggression is a shared struggle. The January events were a turning point in the global struggle for democracy. They exposed the cruelty of the Soviet regime, highlighted the power of resistance, and set the stage for the Baltic states' remarkable transformation. Today, Lithuania stands as a testament to what can be achieved when people refuse to back down, even in the face of unthinkable odds. It's a lesson not just for the Baltics, but for all of us. Empires may rise and fall, but the human spirit, when fueled by the desire for freedom, remains unbreakable.